Hi everyone. Welcome to my channel, Turkish Spotlight Secrets. All the details are in my video. If you enjoy this kind of content, a like and a subscription mean the world to me, and if you want to go even further, you can support by clicking the join button right below. Thank you for being here. Now let's get into today's story. In Turkish entertainment, grand romances so often arrive in noise and leave in silence. But every now and then, a quiet voice cuts through the curtain with something startlingly honest. That's what happened when Cenk Torun, long admired for his poise and discretion, finally stepped out from behind the carefully kept borders of his private life and spoke, plainly, gently, and with a sincerity that felt almost revolutionary, about why he chose to marry Mahassine Merabet. His confession didn't crash like thunder. It unfolded like a soft light turning on in a dim room, and suddenly you could see everything more clearly. The actor's words spread fast. It wasn't just headlines, it was the way people passed the quotes along like a secret they wanted to protect. Cenk, who for years had sidestepped rumor and spectacle, let down his guard and said something simple and, for many, profound. After sharing a home with Mahassine, he realized marriage wasn't a formality. It was the natural direction of a life already entwined. He didn't present it as a grand romantic gesture staged for cameras or a decision pushed by expectation. He spoke like someone describing a door he had already walked through. And the public listened. You know the timeline, the world paused, and inside those long months, they created a rhythm of their own. While the outside grew uncertain, Cenk and Mahassine built a space that felt anchored. He recalled days laced with small rituals. The kind of simple routines that never trend, yet save us in ways headlines never capture. They painted on afternoons when the light stretched across the floor. They tried recipes just to see what would happen. They allowed silence to be a language, unthreatening and full of understanding. And more than anything, they laughed. Again and again, he circled back to laughter, not as a distraction, but as a bridge. He described how humor broke tension, softened fear, and returned them, every day, to each other. For many who only knew Cenk as the composed figure on screen, hearing him talk like this was disarming. His voice carried the grounded calm of someone who had tested his feelings against difficult days and found them intact. He spoke of time and change with the realism of a man who has been seen and has seen others. Looks pass, he reflected. Applause fades. What matters is the sense of ease you share with the person beside you, the warmth, the joy, the balance you build and defend. The line that resonated the most was his reflection on the quiet values that survive the glare. He made it clear that after the first dazzle, what remains is that calm harmony two people nurture together. It wasn't lost on anyone how lovingly he spoke of Mahassine. Not in the practiced way celebrities often reserve for magazine profiles, but in the tone of a husband who has noticed the little things and collected them. He described her presence as kinetic, creative, and resilient. Someone who can meet a chaotic moment with spark and tenderness at once. He laughed softly when recalling how she can turn a near disaster in the kitchen into a story they tell for weeks, or how she finds color where others would only see the gray of a long day. Her inventiveness, he said, shaped their home. Her intuition steadied it. It was clear that living with her hadn't just changed his routine, it had expanded how he sees the world. Naturally, the gossip pages swarmed. Headlines tried to summarize what, by its nature, resists shrinking. But there was something bigger than a pull quote. Beneath the publicity wave was a man choosing to praise steadiness over spectacle, to put privacy above performative romance, to say that love can be both ordinary and immense. He spoke, again and again, about guarding the little sanctuary they've made. He was candid about wanting a simple life, fewer flourishes, fewer games, deeper roots. And the internet, so used to glitter and chaos, surprised itself by responding with quiet admiration. Fans flooded timelines with comments that felt less like standing and more like nodding. Many who have watched Cenk grow in the public eye saw this as a turning point, a moment of maturity, not for him alone, but for the way we talk about partnerships. Some remarked that hearing him confirm what so many sensed was oddly moving. Others said it forced them to reflect on their own love stories, their own definitions of stability. "This is how someone who truly cares speaks," one message read, echoing dozens like it. Another said, "He didn't choose fireworks, he chose a home." And there were many who pointed out that in celebrating Mahassine's spirit and wit, Cenk showed he's drawn to character, not illusion. Of course, not all reactions stopped at praise. A number of cultural commentators looked at his admission and saw a sign of the times, a drift away from manufactured romance towards something less polished but more real. In a business that often rewards appearance over essence, his choice to highlight everyday intimacy felt radical. It was as if his voice cleared the clutter, and for a moment we remembered that love, off-camera, off-script, is built from practices, not performances. What makes this so magnetic is the contrast. For years, Cenk cultivated an image of discipline and restraint, revealing little beyond the work. His audience respected that, but they were left guessing. And then, almost unexpectedly, he let us peek into the quiet hours of his life, the days marked by shared jokes, paint-streaked fingers, and the comfort of not needing to impress one another at every turn. The surprise of that glimpse paired with the tenderness of his language produced a wave wider than any announcement or red carpet moment could. It wasn't fireworks. It was a lighthouse. At Turkish Spotlight Secrets, where we put a magnifying glass on the hidden corners of celebrity lives, we can't ignore the depth of feeling these revelations stirred among viewers, especially those who see themselves in these understated love languages. So I want to hear from you. What do you make of this confession? Do you believe cohabitation reveals the truest face of love? Do you see Cenk Torun and Mahassine Merabet as one of the most steadfast couples in Turkish entertainment today? Share your thoughts below. This channel grows with your voices, your takes, your stories. If these human, layered narratives, filled with small moments that matter, speak to you, then stay with us here at Turkish Spotlight Secrets. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and if you want to keep this community vibrant and supportive, join as a member by clicking the join button. Every comment and every like helps us keep telling these stories the way they deserve to be told. What do we carry away from Cenk and Mahassine? A reminder that love's strongest proofs aren't always dramatic. Sometimes they're in the easy silence that doesn't demand, in the way a laugh can pull you back from the edge of a bad day, or in a meal that goes wrong and ends in aching, cathartic giggles. Sometimes they're in the patience it takes to forgive a clumsy brushstroke on a shared canvas, know it's the gesture that counts, and keep painting anyway, together. Cenk's words also invite us to reconsider what survival looks like in a relationship. Not merely enduring, but thriving through uncertainty. During that suspended season when the world was learning new rhythms, he and Mahassine built ours around rituals that required no witnesses. Morning coffees turned into conversations that wandered. Playlists became soundtracks to private comedies and quiet epiphanies. The invitation was to be present, fully, and to choose each other without the applause meter. It wasn't a grand theory of love. It was a daily practice. When he was asked about beauty, he didn't dodge. He acknowledged the obvious. Faces change, time has a signature no one escapes. What endures, he said, is the feeling of safety. What renews is the ability to laugh and forgive. What deepens is the peace you return to when the world is loud and you need a place to land. And in naming those things, he named what so many are hungry to hear, and rarely do, from the people they admire, a value system built on something that can't be bought, sold, or staged. And what about Mahassine, the woman at the heart of this story? The portrait he painted of her was not the standard list of compliments. He described a partner with a curious mind, a quick wit, and a contagious zest for life. Someone who will test a spice she's never used, read a poem aloud without warning, or pull him into a dance in the hallway because a song demanded it. He credited her with lifting his gaze, nudging him to see beyond deadlines and doubts, and reminding him that joy is not a splurge, it's a discipline. If the home they share feels alive, it's because they both keep tending it. The press tried to pin down the essence. How do you headline tenderness? Some went with the marriage angle, others with the private man opens up narrative, and a few tried to turn it into a trend piece. But the heart of the matter is quieter. Cenk wasn't selling a fantasy. He was explaining a choice and the daily work that sustains it. To keep the house protected from noise, to keep routine sacred, to reach for balance rather than applause. The industry may glitter, but he chose the steady glow of something that endures. In response, the digital world generated a chorus that sounded less like a frenzy and more like collective relief. People wrote about learning from their grandparents' marriages, about finding someone who laughs at the same wrong moment, about realizing that stability isn't dull, it's a luxury. The phrase family man floated across comment sections, not as a trope but as a respectful nod to what he's building. And for those who once saw him as distant, this was a welcome surprise, a fuller portrait, more textured and more human. Critics also brought a wider lens, saying his comments land in a culture recalibrating its relationship to romance. We are, they argued, inching away from curated perfection and toward narratives that honor imperfection, patience, and kindness. If the algorithm prizes novelty, perhaps audiences now prize sincerity. Cenk didn't plead a case, he embodied one. And so we circle back to the question, why did this hit so hard? Partly because it came from someone who rarely invites the public into his private rooms. Partly because the tenderness of his language rang true. And partly because we all remember what those months were like, how the world shrank and home grew large. In that time, many discovered what their bonds were made of. For Cenk and Mahassine, the result was clarity. They didn't stumble into love, they stewarded it. At Turkish Spotlight Secrets, we are drawn to those moments when the mask slips and the person underneath speaks. We ask again, does living together reveal the real architecture of love? Do you think Cenk and Mahassine are a model for a quieter, sturdier kind of celebrity relationship? Let us know. Your stories shape ours. If you want to keep exploring tales like this, stories that whisper but linger, subscribe, ring that bell, and, if you can, join our members who help us keep the cameras rolling and the conversations honest. Every view, every message, every tiny act of support is felt. The love story of Cenk Torun and Mahassine Merabet doesn't need scandal to be interesting. It breathes in the humble spaces where life actually happens, a shared kitchen, a messy canvas, a living room dance. It's proof that the grandest gestures might be the quietest. For some, his confession was a confirmation. For others, a spark. For us at Turkish Spotlight Secrets, it was a reminder that even in a world that often rewards the loudest voice, truth spoken softly can still shake the room. Thank you so much for watching my video and spending this time with me. Stay, share your thoughts, and keep the conversation going right here on Turkish Spotlight Secrets. See you in the next one. Take care, and goodbye.